Hello, my wonderful ninth graders. I hope you're all well. I have a little good news and bad news. The bad news is you may recognize this worksheet. I'm going to ask you to do this again, which won't be that big a deal. It shouldn't take very long because our situation's changed a bit. I know you've worked through it or mostly through it before, but because we're going to be working with a different pen, I thought you might want to get a little practice using it. Instead of using the old Croquill dip pens and the inkwells, because of our situation with everyone being spread out and not having ink and things, we're going to be using a different sort of pen. This is a 0.7 fine point black gel pen, and it's not like a dip pen, but it creates a similar line and it will have a similar look to the effects, and so I think you'll find it a lot easier to work with and a little more fun because you won't be dipping the pen. You're not going to find it kind of splotching or leaking or getting on your fingers and things like that. So this is our worksheet that we had for pen and ink that you will remember, and there are just a few techniques that we're going to practice with it. You've seen these before. The first is hatching, which is just a series of parallel lines, and so you'll use your pen in as light a quick a motion as you can manage, keeping those lines as close together as you can, and that's the challenge. You want to make it just as fine as you can, and it's going to be a little bit inconsistent because we're doing it by hand. You know, we're not machines. So just practice that as you move through these different practice circles. You should improve a little bit. You should find yourself getting more comfortable with it. The next technique, as you can see, is called cross-hatching. So that's basically the same technique, and I'm going faster here than you really need to, so I think you should try to take a little more time, but I'm trying not to make this a 20-minute video too. So series of parallel lines in one direction, and then coming back the opposite direction, perpendicular, and laying those across one another, like this. And we really only want to shade half of this sphere. We want to use it like we're trying to shadow some sort of object, like we're creating shadows. And it helps if you start at the edge and work in toward the middle so that the line tapers off. If you do it the other way, you end up with a sort of a big bump at the end of the line, and that doesn't look pleasing. So this next one is called contour hatching, and that's when you're using the direction of the mark to follow the contour of the object that you're drawing. So this is just like kind of like lines on a globe that are following the curvature of the object. And this is probably the trickiest one, trying to get a consistent sort of curve to these lines. And again, it'll take a little practice until you're comfortable with it and feel like you're getting good at it. So I got a little bit sloppy at the end, but again, I'm kind of in a hurry. So as much as possible, use these other examples that I made here on the left and shoot for that. Try to make these as fine and precise as you can. The fourth one is just scumbling or kind of scribble hatching. So you're just kind of moving the pen in tight little scribbles this way, but in a controlled way, not in a chaotic sort of, uncontrolled way. You want to make these overlap a little bit, keep them sort of going in random directions. And this is a useful texture for a lot of things, a lot of natural things, you know, stone or dirt or all kinds of textures you might see in nature or who knows where. So that's the scumbling. And then finally, stippling. This requires a lot of patience, but it's also a really cool sort of texture. If you take your time and build up these dots and use those for shading, and it just takes, again, some patience and some practice. And by the time you get to the end of that line, hopefully you will see that you've improved a little bit. So the thing is to space these dots as evenly as possible to keep them controlled so that they don't end up looking like little lines or commas, but keep your pen sort of straight up and down, nice round dots. And then if, like the example on the left, you want to go in and darken an area, you can just do another layer of dots over the top of the ones you already have. But no scribbling or scumbling with this. Always use those regular dots and then build them up where you want darker values. And that gives that nice sense of sort of roundness to something. So practice all these again. I will send you the blank sheet so that you can have something to work on. We'll email that to you, and you can use this as a way to practice your pen and ink techniques so that we can all begin our book plate projects very quickly, and I'll be sending you material on that too. So hope you all are having a good day. I'll see you soon.